Hello there, I'm Lloyd Evans. Welcome to The Bunker. It's time for another voicemail. Today's voicemail is from an anonymous caller. Let's listen to what they have to say.
Hi, Lloyd. First off, feel free to use this in one of your videos if you choose to do so. I really appreciate all the work that you do, so definitely keep it up. I should also let you know I'm actually on purpose speaking with a British accent, just to conceal my real accent, because I feel like it would give me away. So if I do stumble with my words, that's most likely why. I'm speaking like this, obviously, because my mom is actually still in while I'm inactive, and I just don't want any of those kind of repercussions. I'm a fourth generation witness. I was baptized at 14. I left when I was 16, and I was inactive because I didn't really like anything anyway. I grew up with a gay best friend, and I never liked the treatment of women, and I just wanted out. It was too much pressure. At 18, I was disassociated because of reasons that relate to the country I live in, which I won't go into. At 21, I actually got reinstated. I feel like now looking back, now in my late 20s, looking back, I very much wanted that kind of sense of community and that love, and to go back to, sort of that hopeful feeling. 2 years later, I actually ended up leaving again. Now I'm inactive. So although I never really liked the truth so much, there were still things I disagreed with, but I always felt that connection to it, most likely because I was raised in it. I actually woke up only about a month ago. I actually saw something about child sex abuse in a complete non-witness related video talking about Jehovah's Witnesses as a quick mention, and I'd never heard of this before. After looking at that, I was led to your channel. I was led to Harrison Kother's channel, The Truth Hurts. And it's just boggled my mind how much BS there is in the organization. I feel so happy to have woken up. I'm still coming to grips with it, but I feel happy and free. And I have you to thank, as well as Harrison Kother. And also I'm absolutely loving your takes on the cartoonish and hilarious Stephen Lett, which I never would have known about because I left before. I left around 2013. So towards my question, my mum said to me a few years ago that the governing bodies mentioned something along the lines of one day the governing body may ask people, with the witnesses being, to do something that might seem strange, but they should have faith and do it anyway. And this just didn't make any sense to me. And now watching your videos with the governing body, it's starting to make sense. And I think it's very chilling, especially how they're getting people to donate more, to leave their lives, to, get rid of their dog, to stop what they're doing and go help build, whatever they want them to build. And so my question is not, should we be afraid for the future of our loved ones and the innocent witnesses who are just being misled, but how afraid should we be? How far do you think the governing body will be willing to take their ridiculous demands? So, yeah, that's my question for you, really. Once again, thank you so much for all you do. Really, really keep up the good work. And I very much appreciate your form of peaceful activism. So, yeah, thank you and have a wonderful day.
Well, thank you very much for that message, and I really appreciate the courage and bravery that's gone into leaving it. Also, mastering an accent for a message where you're sharing quite personal things. I mean, I can sort of do accents, but it's difficult to do an accent when you're sharing a story like that. So I think that, I appreciate you going to all of that effort, and I appreciate the courage and bravery that's gone in to you leaving this message, given your current circumstances. That's an interesting one. You kind of ask the question, or you do ask the question, not should we be afraid, but how afraid should we be? You seem to have made your mind up with greatest respect, that we should all be afraid. It's just a question of how afraid we should be. I'm not fully signed up on that. Do the governing body have excessive control over our loved ones who are still Jehovah's Witnesses? Yes. Is that control detrimental to the well-being of our loved ones? Yes. But the tone of your question sort of implies a little bit of Jonestown, a little bit of, is something unthinkable going to happen? We can't write it off. No one can see the future. I'm just personally of a mindset of, let's deal with one catastrophe at a time, and let's not go racing ahead and make the organization guilty in our minds of something that they haven't done yet. You say towards the end that you appreciate my respectful tone of activism. I believe very strongly in responsible activism and dealing with actual, factual, concrete problems rather than racing ahead. Because if I go and make a video saying, oh, there's going to be another Jonestown, Jehovah's Witnesses would be well within their rights to say, this guy's just a sensationalist, this guy's not living in reality. I can just ignore everything else that he's saying because he's talking about something that isn't going to happen and probably won't happen and shouldn't happen. So even though I do sympathize with your fears, and I think that there will be many watching who share your fears, given the excessive control. I mean, all of this really is tied in with that Watchtower article. I forget which year, but they said something along the lines of, even if the direction we receive doesn't make sense from a human standpoint, we should still follow it. That was literally what they said in the Watchtower, and also referred to it subsequently in convention videos, or at least one convention video that I can think of. Now, interestingly, they invoked that language with the recent handling of COVID. So when they were telling witnesses in all countries, irrespective of what the local government was saying, you need to practice social distancing, you need to look out for your health, practice sanitation, what have you, they were invoking that scripture as an example. So it may not make sense from a human standpoint for you to be practicing social distancing, even though your government isn't requiring it of you in this particular country, but we're asking you to do it anyway. Now, there's an example of terrible, terrible reasoning resulting in something that actually isn't that bad. It could be utilized in an unthinkable way to produce something like a Jonestown. Once you're ditching common sense, once you're ditching basic logic and reasoning, which is what that thinking encourages you to do, you're only a hop, skip, and a jump away from Jonestown. And I think that's where you're coming from. I just think that we should deal with the situation as it is. And even though it may be tempting at times to try to be one or two steps ahead, I think that it's bad enough as it is. You know, reality with the child abuse, with the shunning, with the blood transfusions, it's bad enough as it is without trying to second guess how it could be worse, or, as your question suggests, how it will be worse. Let's just deal with one problem at a time. That's at least my approach. I'm not insisting this should be your approach or the approach of others. I'm just explaining that with my own activism, I think it's really helpful if we can just base everything on what we know and on what is actually happening. That's not to say I don't speculate from time to time. Sometimes it's interesting to ask questions like, when are they going to sell all the Kingdom Halls and cash in on them? You know, sometimes it's useful to do that purely as a hypothetical exercise. But when we're talking about Kool-Aid, you know, taking a pill, which is like the absolute worst case scenario, I'm not so sure that it's helpful or productive to go down that path. It is helpful and productive to say the reasoning that they are manipulating Jehovah's Witnesses with is a hop, skip, and a jump away from that. That is helpful, because then we're highlighting how much control this organization either has or wants with its followers. So that's I think what we can say. But in terms of how afraid should we be, let's be afraid about situations as they arise. I think it's more sustainable for our mental health if we just deal with one problem at a time, rather than, again, trying to go one or two steps ahead and worry about things that haven't happened yet and probably won't happen. I happen to believe that even though the governing body wants that level of control over people, it's not in their interests to do a Jonestown. I can't see it happening. Yes, it could happen. Probably people in the Jonestown cult couldn't see that sort of thing happening. But is it likely? Is it probable? Almost anything's possible, but that doesn't make it probable or likely. And yeah, for the purposes of activism that is persuasive and rational and founded in reality, for me personally, I'm just not going to go there. But that's not to say I don't sympathize with where you're coming from. I really do. Speaking as someone who has family inside, who cannot stand the level of control this organization exerts over them. It's terrible. And it could conceivably be used in a very dark and sinister way. But let's deal with each problem as it arises. And let's highlight the fact that the organization wants this control, has even put it in print and in their videos. And hopefully by doing that, we can dissuade people from ever getting roped into it to begin with, because they can see very, very clearly, okay, this is a high control cult. They want to override my critical thinking. They want me to ignore common sense in favor of their directions. I'd better steer clear of it. So I hope that's useful. I really do appreciate the message. And again, I really appreciate the courage and bravery that it required of you to leave the message. So that's all I have for you. Don't forget that if you would like to leave a voicemail, the thing to do is go to speakpipe.com/Cedars, remembering to indicate clearly if you don't want me to broadcast your message on this channel. But that's all I have time for. Thank you so much for watching.